Hello, and welcome to the White Deer Filmmaking Podcast. How are you doing today, Adam?
Not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, all fine, really. Yeah, all good, actually.
I got nothing to say.
Nothing to say. Ooh. It's an interesting one. Will people care? Maybe they will.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I'd
that
argue.
helps so much. It's very vague. Was that probably, but then pause, probably not, or were you just repeating probably, and then clarifying that you meant probably not?
I don't reckon. It depends what you're going to say.
Oh, I suppose.
But I'd argue not.
Well, thanks, Adam. You're doing a lot of writing, actually. A lot of planning ahead, screenplay writing. Yeah.
No, well, then they might care then. I thought you were going to tell us about your trip to the shops or something. And then I was going to argue.
I'm not going to go down that route, no, because that brings up too many bad memories. I'm not going back to Asda anytime soon. Not because Asda's particularly bad. I actually quite like the offers that they often have on, but just the
other supermarkets are also bad.
Yeah, I think it's a case of supermarkets
Let's
in general
be fair.
are also bad. Yeah, during this current crisis. I mean, I can't speak for every single one of them. Obviously, I haven't made it a mission to go around every supermarket in the UK to test this.
Of course, that would be irresponsible.
That would be foolish, and also very expensive and probably pointless. But yes, my experience going to Asda or a supermarket, because Asda sponsorship. My experience going to a supermarket was horrendous. No one followed the rules except us that I could visibly see. Maybe that's not fair. The vast majority of people didn't follow the rules. The one-way system wasn't taken into account. Masks were minimal. Lots of stress. And of course, I went with someone who is a diabetic, so they were terrified. Because they're classed as vulnerable. So yeah, not great. But that's a downer. Let's not talk about that.
Well, yeah,
let's talk about.
That was the thing that I said that no one would be interested in. So I'm glad we've covered that.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially when this comes out, which will be a couple of weeks away. It will be a couple of weeks since I went to said supermarket. The situation will have changed completely, and will be almost like we're more back to normal. But then again, I don't know. It's a strange one. It's a very... I know this is not filmmaking related, but it's... I think it's globally felt, so it might be of interest. But it's a very much a transition period, going from a lockdown scenario to a non-lockdown scenario, and it's about that balance of, well, what danger is there? Obviously, we want to avoid a second spike, but people are like, oh, I can't be bothered anymore. Let's just get back into the way it was. I don't know. It's such a strange time. But let's not dwell on that, please. I think people are probably bored of hearing that on podcasts, but I think we've tried to avoid it to a degree. But you asked me how I am on them, and that came out. So
don't you do some writing, Mark?
Oh yeah, we'll start off with that as well. Yes, writing a fair bit. I was saying,
imagine if all that was cut now.
Quite forward.
I'll probably cut all that, and then I'll just cut all that bit.
Not the coronavirus related stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, do it. Just get rid of it.
I'll put it on fast forward. I'm sorry.
Yes, everyone's
you were actually
Mark
getting into something exciting. So
yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, a fair bit of writing. One which I think we're going to be working on, which is I can't really say too much about it because it's still in development and I've not got that far into it, but it is a horror sci-fi mix of genres there. So yeah, playing around with light quite a bit.
Well, you say sci-fi, and you say playing around with light, and I'm all in.
And you're all in.
If this is a job interview for the cinematographer's role.
Yes. Well, what I'll say is that this is a job interview, and we're relying on people's comments and interaction in order for you to get the role. Or you can, people listening, you can put yourself forward if you want to be the director of photography on this project. Then your competition is not very good, so join us. I'm only joking. But yes, what about you? Have you been doing much recently?
Well, that'll be cut out as well.
Oh no. No.
I'll just join it all together to sound like you're a massive fan of my work and everything's good.
I am the biggest fan of your work. You know that. Let's not paint a negative picture.
That makes the edit easy. I'll just come into the episode. We'll say hello, and then you'll
we'll just start again.
A massive fan of your work.
I will say to anyone listening,
here's
is
the interview.
Adam. Yes, well, basically. But I will say this. I don't know if this is what you're going to speak about, but you've recently just updated your show reel, and you're getting so much great feedback. It is fantastic. Is it on your website?
Yes, and it's on Vimeo.
Excellent. I think people should check it out.
You can really find it on Google, I would assume, if you type in my name and show reel. Hopefully it'll come up.
Brilliant. Yes, I would urge people to do so. Some feedback, because you're not going to say it, but some feedback is very much that Adam captures characters exceptionally well, and we're all about character, strong characters in filmmaking. So yeah, very impressive. And
it's fun that you're also one of those characters.
Yes, so. Unfortunately for you. But
all of the actors have got good feedback as well from people that have seen my show reel, so you included. So share the positivity around, I guess. And then let's abruptly stop congratulating ourselves.
That's too much. We can't. We'll get too. Our heads will grow too big.
It's either insulting each other or congratulating each other. Why can't we have a normal conversation?
Well, we do indeed have a normal conversation in this week's episode, but with someone else, because without a happy medium,
it's terrible with just the two of us.
Exactly. Today we are talking to a return guest, Tatjana Anders, you may remember, who was our first guest, our first interview, not with us three, way back, I think it was last October.
I think you're probably about right there.
Yes, I think we recorded it either last October or November. It came out
last year,
last December.
At least.
Yeah, last year at some stage. But yeah, a short while ago now. But I think we said it. Since then, we as filmmakers have grown. As people, we've grown. But we always remembered the fact that Tatjana, who specifically won Best Actress during our awards, she spoke briefly about crowdfunding, and we've been wanting to talk about a few specific topics for a while, crowdfunding being one of them. So we asked her to come back on to discuss her experience with it. We in no way at all are we implying that she is an expert on the topic. I don't think she would think that she is an expert on it either. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tatjana. I don't want to put words into your mouth. I think we'd say that she... I think we'd say that she... Oh, I'm on a delay.
I think she...
I'm on a delay.
I think she... we definitely thought that she did a good job. Or she sounded like she ran a good crowdfunding campaign, so that was enough for us to kind of... None of this is whenever we're talking or whenever any of our guests are talking, I'm sure they'd agree that this isn't this isn't by any means how you should make films, how you should do a crowdfunding campaign or anything. This is people sharing experiences of how they did something. Maybe it will trigger a different idea in your head, and that will inspire you to do something. But we thought that Tatjana did especially well with, or spoke incredibly well about her experience with crowdfunding. So we thought it's an area that people don't necessarily talk about too much, maybe, or is an area that there's not too much information out there. So we thought that it'd be good to talk to someone about it and see what experience she had. And because we're recording this after the interview, it was quite a good conversation, wasn't it, Mark?
It was, wasn't it? Yeah. And like with Tatjana's previous interview, very, very comprehensive and very much, I mean this in an extremely positive way, in that you ask one question and Tatjana is so good at expanding on it and taking it into and covering loads of bases really really well, and it comes out very clearly, and you just get so much from it, and I really enjoy speaking to it. Every time we speak to it, I really enjoy it. So yeah, I think everyone else will as well. So yeah, we'll just get straight to it, I guess. Enjoy, I think. Yeah. Brilliant. So you've just been telling us, just to to introduce people, we're back here today with Tatjana, who's very, very kindly come back to talk to us about crowdfunding specifically. And just before we came on here, you were telling us about a few of the projects you've been working on. And for those who remembered us chatting to you the first time around, you're working on a feature version of your reality, which very exciting. And you've got you were just mentioning a new, very different project which you were working on. Did you say spy thriller?
Yeah. It's quite different. So your reality is quite dark, quite psychological, and you know, a very, very serious subject. This one is a bit more lighthearted. So it's like a spy thriller which follows agents from different nationalities, but they all have been selected to get this AI implanted because they've been excelling. And we're trying to actually make it's a sci-fi, obviously, but there's a lot of kind of development in that technology happening at the moment. So what we want to try and do is actually make it seem very realistic, rather than going, I don't know, like altered carbon kind of style where, you know, you have like this sleeves. I'm sure you've seen it. We want it to be like, this is a breakthrough technology, and the people who are trying it out are quite like nervous about it. They don't know whether it's going to work, and then if it does work, like what will the AI do to you? Like, will that take over your identity? Will you become someone new? Well, it's sort of like a bit of identity crisis, or like moral ideas. And there is like a company called, for example, Neuralace by Elon Musk, out of everyone. So he's already kind of like introducing this kind of stuff where you implant AI into your brain to make you smarter and, you know, better, whatever. So we're kind of taking the science that already exists and sort of taking it into the film. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's nice. Very, very early stages, but it's something completely different, and I'm very excited about it as well.
Yeah, that sounds very much something that we would be interested in. Right? It's probably, I mean, that sounds like something that Al would probably write as well, because he loves that sort of. Really. Are you intending to take a role in there, Tatjana?
So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's been a dream of mine to do some action stuff as well for a long time.
Nice. Yeah.
I just really wanted to kind of create something fun and a bit more visually interesting and crazy. And
Will you be playing one of the agents?
One of the agents, yeah. Yeah, probably the Russian.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We tried to make them so they're all like very different personalities and different like nations, and it's sort of a very eclectic mix of people come together.
Nice.
Brilliant. Do you have an estimated sort of time frame? Obviously, with what's going on, maybe things have slowed down. But have you got like a plan? Maybe it's the project for next year, sort of thing, or
exactly.
way in the future.
I think if we manage to kind of get it all sort of, at least the piloted stuff off the ground, and maybe try and film it either end of this year or beginning of next year. But it really depends on the situation.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, your reality feature, I really want to try and shoot this year, end of this year, but we'll see. I'm very,
Well, I mean, that's a really nice sort of segue onto the main topic that we wanted to talk to you today about, because I think what captures the most about talking to you about your reality last time was your role as a producer on it as well, and you know, it's very much a story close to your heart, and trying to get the funding for it wasn't an easy task. And in no way are we saying that you're an expert on anything, so don't feel pressured, but just you've been through the experience of trying to get something funded, and you've just been through that experience of knowing what the process might look like to some people. It might be very different to others, but yeah, we just wanted to sort of talk to you today about going into a bit more detail on that, about crowdfunding specifically, and obviously any sort of insight that you can provide on it. But if you don't mind, could you detail quite briefly again sort of your experience with crowdfunding for your reality? People may remember, but just to update those that might not.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we were doing your reality crowdfunding, I think, so we picked, we went with Indiegogo. I think as a filmmaker, you really need to make a decision whether you're going to go with Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Now, sort of like looking at it, you know, at a distance, and having seen some other people doing crowdfunding as well, I wonder whether we could have picked Kickstarter. I went to a screening of this girl's short film as well the other day, well, a few months ago, and she crowdfunded it on Kickstarter, and they managed to raise 18 grand, which is quite a lot. I think how much was it, like 7 or 6? I don't remember even. But I think also being on the right platform with Indiegogo, obviously you can keep the money even if you don't reach the goal. But on Kickstarter, I feel like if you do manage to get it trending, it actually can take you to completely another level, because just the platform is so much bigger, and it's very much US based. So is Indiegogo, but I think that if you play your cards right, it can probably help you gain more money. But then again, you have to be confident, or you have to put your target a bit lower so you don't lose the money if you don't reach your goal.
Yeah.
So I think when we started the crowdfunding process, what I would suggest anyone who wants to crowdfund their short film or feature film is preparation, and also I would say to put together a team that is going to be responsible. We had 3 people kind of trying to reach out to press and reach out to friends, but honestly, the more the merrier, the more the better. If I were to do it again, I would probably try and put together a team of like 5 to 10 people who would be just responsible for helping me kind of reach out to their community, to anyone who they can like find and target. Because actually, for like the reach out process and asking for money is the biggest part of the crowdfunding, and to put that all in like 1 or 2 people is just too much work, and it's too much pressure as well. So if you have like a team of people who can help you, even if it's just part-time or like, a few hours a day or whatever it is, I think actually can make a huge difference. Or you have someone with good contacts. Rich people, rich friends.
Yeah.
I would also say that for us in particularly, it really helped to have found one bigger backer who was able to put in a bit more money to begin with, and I think that actually makes a huge difference. I was really lucky. Before I started the crowdfunding process, I was literally just approaching any people I could think of who could maybe come on board as an executive producer. So I was really, really lucky. I approached John Clarkson, who I kind of did some presenting work for before, and he just really liked the idea, and he just really wanted to support it because of, gaslighting and psychological, subject, and he thought it was a good film to raise awareness of gaslighting. And he put in, I believe, like $2,000 literally as soon as the campaign launched. And then, we already had, like a really great jump start where, people would come on side, because people are like that, they want to back something that is already doing well.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important, because that, if you read any kind of like guide on crowdfunding, that's what they say, like the first 12 to 48 hours is the most crucial bit of your crowdfunding campaign. That's where you get the most momentum. So almost like messaging everyone before you even like announce it, kind of like preparing them for it, and being like, okay, as soon as I launch, at least your best friends, people who you can rely on, as soon as I launch, please, donate even just a little bit. And then the earlier in the process you can get this sort of money, the better, because the further down the line it goes, you kind of lose momentum, you lose steam. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's that's, I guess, quite a lot to sort of a few different areas to unpick there. But very much it seems to be. Oh, I was, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, Tatjana, were there any kind of specific elements to the crowdfunding campaign that were really successful? I mean, did you sort of utilize video promotion, or sort of, like you can give people perks if they donate so much money and stuff like that? Did you guys try any of those sorts of things?
Yeah, we certainly did have perks. We had, I think the things that were most popular were sort of like pre-releases of the actual film. I think we had a few kind of like masterclass video things as well, where you could, I think, Skype with either myself or the director. And I think any kind of skills that any of your team has, like if someone is like a really good editor on your team, or someone is I don't know, like a mastermind colorist or even director, I think it'd be an interesting idea to or offer some kind of like masterclass almost, or even like a consultation. I feel like a lot of people who would donate would be like filmmakers as well, people who are in this industry and they want to support like either their friends, or they just want to support independent filmmakers. And I think offering them something that would help them in any kind of way is quite powerful as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Do you think that, because obviously your reality had, we spoke about this previously, that it had a particularly strong message and something to get across to the audience? Was there any particular marketing that you did specifically around that theme? So was that the thing that you led with, if you like? And do you think you got a lot of support because it had that message attached to it?
Yeah, I think so. I think especially once you start reaching out beyond your friendship circle, if you have a film that tackles any kind of social issues or anything, people are much more likely to donate to it. Or I think in two occasions that's a powerful way to go about it is either if you have a social or like an issue that affects us all, or if you tap into like a very strong niche, like with horror films, for example, or like any kind of cult film stuff where there is already like a target audience and they are all like into like, I don't know, some kind of like culty interesting films, or maybe like some kind of Star Wars remake, I don't know, something where you already have a fan base. It's always easier because these are people who are supportive of this particular cause and they'd be more interested to get on board. So it's just these two ways for me personally what I've learned to go about it. But yeah, definitely if you're approaching press, for example, always lead with the idea. It's like, how is this film gonna benefit the world, or why does it deserve to be made? Beyond your personal ego and
I guess similarly as well. How was it approaching kind of getting funding for a project where that you don't have a kind of, you're funding it to get it shot, so you might not have too much material to show for this project? Were you using older projects to kind of show that you could pull it off, basically?
Yeah, that's a very good question. What we've done is a friend of mine actually helped me shoot some kind of like a trailer. It's not even a trailer, it was just like a mini scene that wasn't even in the film in the end, but it was kind of like the idea to get I would definitely suggest for people to shoot something, even if it's maybe ideally it should, I think personally, I think ideally you should try to shoot maybe like a tiny little bit, but shoot it well. And because it is, as you say, showcasing whether you can do it. If you already have amazing films that you've shot in the past, maybe you can use that footage. I think it's important to give people the idea that you are capable of producing good quality content, because there is a lot of crap being shot on a daily basis as well. And I think people would have more confidence in supporting you if they know that you've already achieved, or filmed some really cool stuff in the past.
Yeah, I feel like it's rather than going in expecting money for kind of nothing, it seems like it should be the case of, look what I've done for X amount, and then this is what I want to try and achieve for 10 times that or something. So you've got to have something there to prove it to start off with.
I agree. I shot or I acted in a short film just before the lockdown. It's called Forget Me Not, and the director did a similar thing. So he kind of shot a little scene for his crowdfunding project, or for the crowdfunding, and he then used that scene to kind of market it. And he wasn't even with me, like I wasn't even playing the role back then. He just used his friends, and then once he had the funding and the money, he hired a professional actor. Well, some of them were professionals, but he like did the casting and stuff, and stepped it up a notch. But I think it is important to have something to show for. I reckon, as you say, if you've already done like a really cool video or film that isn't even related to this particular project, you can still show it and be like, this is what I'm capable of. This, like, I've done this and this in the past, and this is my new project, and it's going to be just as brilliant, maybe even better.
Yeah, it's that state of always progressing and always striving for something bigger, better, and to reach new grounds, and just to try and capture people's attention along the way, I think. And like you say, a lot of it has to go into kind of really pushing for that momentum, especially at the very start of the campaign. Is there a lot of work or thought process that you particularly do beforehand? So do you know that when you're starting a production out, you know that there's a particular time frame that you want to hit with certain things, or is that a little too difficult to always do, what with the ever-changing nature of, you know, scheduling and things like that? Or is there something that you think you specifically want to try and do at specific stages? And how early on would you try and do the fundraising altogether?
I think you should. Well, when we did it, I don't think we've done everything right either. Like, it's just an experiment as well. Like, looking back at it, I would probably almost like pre-plan the whole entire thing way before I would even launch it, if that makes sense. So I would probably approach the press even before I would have launched the or at least gauge some kind of reaction, because I've done a lot of sort of PR masterclasses since, and it usually takes about like 2 to 3 times, 2 to 3 follow-up emails to actually get through to the journalist. And you don't want to like do it, you know, every second day. You would want to give them maybe like 7 days to react, and then if they don't respond, you'll like follow up and stuff. If you do it during the campaign, like by the 3rd follow-up, your campaign is already over. You know what I mean? So it is, I think, a good idea to try and do it beforehand, especially kind of like reaching out to the press, I would say, reaching out to any kind of, also like, you know, I think people always think about blogs and journalists, but there are also people who are reviewing films and stuff on YouTube and like podcasts like yourself, or you know, you're also YouTube, aren't you? And I think you kind of have to think outside the box a little bit and try and think of anyone you can think of. Also to sort of like think about maybe people who whether you have any personal connections to the press, like friend of a friend or a friend of something, because that always works better as well. So yeah, and in terms of the crowdfunding, I would, as I say, try and pre-plan as much as possible, and then during the actual campaign is just a lot of kind of emailing people and asking for money. It sounds terrible, I know, but and that's what it is, really. You have to get outside of your comfort zone to do it well. It's not easy. Not everyone can just email people and ask for money all the time.
Yeah,
it's
one of those things,
I guess, where having it as wide a network as possible is a huge advantage. Going back to a sort of, you know, who you know really enhances this side of the project, really.
I have experience as well. These guys have done it really well. They organized an event around that topic, and even like featuring some other films around a particular topic, or it was sort of like a filmmakers event where they invited some speakers to talk about a particular topic, and then in the end they sort of like announced that they're, you know, launching their Kickstarter campaign. I think that's clever to raise awareness of your film. I would probably, if I were with them, I would have even maybe made it more interesting by kind of like including some kind of filmmaker or that they can win if they back it first. Sorry. So if you are organizing an event with filmmakers and you're announcing your campaign as launching on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and then you have like some kind of bonus for any filmmaker that can that will invest even like a little bit of money in the beginning, enter a competition to win maybe some kind of like one-on-one interview with one of their guests that they invited for, you know, to speak. I don't know. I think it needs to be so creative to like give people as much value as possible in a strange way, because you're asking for money with normal crowdfunding products, usually what people do are they kind of like pre-buying your services or products, right? With films, it's more like emotional, isn't it? Either they invest because they want to support it, or they invest because maybe they want to learn something from the experience.
So kind of overall, do you think crowdfunding is kind of a really good way to go? Do you think, will you, or have you tried crowdfunding since? Or do you think it's going to be kind of like a mixture of that and a mixture of bigger funding partners and things like that?
Yeah, I think, oh man, it's a good question. I think that it really depends on the size, like how much you actually want to raise. And you have to be realistic. Unless you have like a celebrity on board and who is one of your actors. I know that some people have managed to raise quite significantly more just because they had someone who's semi-famous in their film. I think it's actually very hard to raise a lot of money. And I also remember a friend of mine who was doing a crowdfunding campaign for a feature film. And they were raising it was really low budget. It was really well done for like, I don't remember, maybe like under 100 grand, let's say, around 100 grand. And they were doing what you just said, sort of like, they had some major investors and they were also doing crowdfunding. And they realized for themselves that the amount of time they spent going after the major investors with deeper pockets and the amount of the time they would spend like emailing their friends would be kind of the same, but the outcome on one side is so much more lucrative than just getting like a £5 or £10 donation, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I honestly don't know. I feel like for a feature film, if you were to do it, it's more just maybe like a marketing thing. And in that case, you would really have to do like plan your PR, like make it into a PR campaign rather than like a actual fundraising. With short films, I think anything under 10K is quite feasible if you plan it well. So yeah, just depends what you want to do.
I think maybe it was you last time that you were on, or maybe it was I think it's the consensus for a lot of people who have gone the crowdfunding route that one of the most beneficial things is that you've kind of got a fan base there ready for you when the film is launched. You've got people that actually care, rather than setting up a Facebook page kind of at the end of the process. You've got people that care. So maybe that, as you're saying, is one of the best things about crowdfunding, I guess.
I agree. I think what we've done as well, before we launched the crowdfunding campaign, we set up all of our social media accounts and we invited like our friends to like our Facebook page and all that kind of stuff. Like looking back at it, I could probably have done so much more. Like I've been sort of working on developing my Instagram account since, in terms of like gaslighting and stuff, and like psychological whatever support groups, and there are so many accounts with really like quite significant following out there, and all they do is they just kind of like post supportive quotes and like kind of ideas of, you know, or like case studies of people who have experienced like gaslighting and stuff. And I feel like if I would have done a bit more research into it, I probably could have tapped into so much like a bigger community. But yeah, it's never too late. So I'm working on it now for my future film release.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Like you always, we've definitely found it with our recent film, which we've just started kind of looking into a more dedicated crowdfunding campaign. Yeah. But we've definitely, I mean, I certainly have noticed that, yeah, we really should have done this a bit earlier, or at least we maybe should have thought about it a little bit more in advance, or anything like that. But you just simply don't know until you try it. And every film is different. Every team works in a different way and can provide different things. Like you say, if you've got a colorist with you, or you can offer that somehow. So you've got to figure out what works for you, I think. But yeah, I mean it's quite exciting, isn't it? Like I was just mentioning before, that it's not the easiest topic. It often isn't. It's often quite a bit of a slog to do. But without it, you might not get to make the film that you want to make, or reach the people that you need to reach. And yeah, there is creativity in it, so it's exciting. But as with everything, hard work if you want to do it right. So, and any final words at all?
Yeah, no, I think I would say just go for it. So, like whoever is trying to create or do a crowdfunding campaign, I think you have to be your strongest advocate. Like you need to believe in your project, and you need to give people the idea that you're like, if you really believe that this film is important and it needs to be made, then, and you can kind of communicate it constantly and like in a convincing way, I think people will get on board with that. It's almost like excitement, or like it's contagious. If you do it well, I've seen so many examples where people have just got really excited about something, and then it works because people get on board with something that, as I said before, kind of already is getting some momentum. But yeah, I think quick preparation is key. Is the take home lesson from this webinar or interview?
Preparation is key.
Establish your audience as early as possible.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I think I mean, have you guys got any final questions? I think I'm certainly quite ready to get started on a few of the suggestions that Tatjana's made now. So I think that I don't know if you guys got any final questions.
I think that will have provided a good insight to a lot of people that are kind of like starting to try and work out what they can do to get money for their film, and I think it's a good way to start out, as we've kind of like discovered whilst talking. It's a good way to build your audience, and it's a good way to probably as well discover what is the most important things about your project as well. So I guess it works on a lot of ways, and I think people get a lot from it. So thanks for joining us.
I agree. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, as always.
Yes. Thank you so much. Well, what we'll do is we'll stop the recording and just and say goodbye and everything. But thank you once again, Tatjana. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much for listening. I hope you really got a lot out of that. Tatjana is a great guest, and I'm sure we'll have her back on the show in the future. A quick outro for me today, because I'm on a time schedule, if you don't mind. I'll give you the code so you can get that and hopefully submit some films to our festival. We'd love to see them. So the code today is WDPOD54. Once more, WDPOD54. Any final comments, Adam, at all? I mean, great interview, right?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot in there for people, and I'd like to just say if anyone has their own experience with crowdfunding, wants to share anything that they've experienced with it, or any different ways that they've done it, any of the same ways, if anyone's actually got a crowdfunding campaign on the go at the moment, let us know, and let us know what you're doing, and maybe we can have, it seems like we should probably have a follow-up chat about crowdfunding at some point, with some different people maybe, and different experiences and stuff. So let's try and get the best at it that we can, and move forward together, I guess.
Absolutely. Okay, brilliant. On that message, we'll end it there. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, Tatjana, once more. Have a fantastic day.
Bye.
See ya.